Once upon a time, in a Kenyan village, in the central part of the Savannah, there lived a beautiful woman called Nyakio. Nyakio was very stunning, elegant, and admired by all. She always wore her hair bald and shaven. She was also very friendly, confident, and generous, but she never smiled. She had an arrogant attitude. She was the daughter of Chief Masi, who was very stern but well-respected man. Her beautiful mother, Mumbi, was also well-respected and had been the sought-after beauty in her early days. Nyakio had reached the marriageable age, but was adamant and did not smile or entertain any man. She instead was very industrious and spent time doing household chores, fetching water, and making sure her parents were comfortable. Suitors came to seek her hand in marriage, but she would not agree to any of them. Handsome men from all walks of life and different villages came to seek her hand in marriage, but she did not even bother talking to them. The men got tired and one day visited her home, asking her, "Nyakio, what kind of a husband are you looking for?" She looked at them with a lot of pride and said, "I'm just an ordinary girl, looking for a man like one of you, but one who will make me laugh." For so long, Nyakio had not laughed and had not met a man who would make her laugh. So, Nyakio promised that whoever will make her laugh, she will marry right away. On hearing that, handsome and wealthy men came once again to try and amuse her. They made all sorts of efforts to try and make her laugh. But Nyakio was not amused and would instead stare at them with a stern and bored expression. Meanwhile, in the background, other women were amused and laughed so much at the men's joke. Now, there was a wealthy and proud man named Musyoki who promised everyone that he would be able to win Nyakio's heart. Women always laughed at Musyoki's stunts and were always very interested in him. Musyoki went to Nyakio and performed all jokes ever known to him, but she was not moved. He then returned home a dejected man. A man named Kamongoye also went to perform to Nyakio, singing funny songs and twisting his body in all kinds of ways, but she was still unmoved. Young men poured out their hearts to Nyakio, but she was not moved. Meanwhile, the performances were so good that the villagers burst into an appreciative laughter and danced for hours. Nevertheless, Nyakio was not moved. She stared but was not amused, so the men went home heartbroken. The vibrant young men felt dejected and gave up on the pursuit to marry Nyakio. In that same village, there lived a jovial old man named Kasuku. He was a dwarf and would not stop talking. He loved spending time with children in the market square, telling them funny stories that cracked them into laughter. He relished his storytelling and was very kind, so children always followed him around the market to hear from him. Kasuku already had a wife whom he loved so much, but after hearing that all young men had given up on Nyakio, he decided he would try his chance on her. So the next day, Kasuku set out early and bright to go see Nyakio. Kasuku went around the village, shouting and asking everyone to come see him win the heart of Nyakio. He announced confidently, getting everyone's attention so that none of them would say that he'd been unfair when he finally takes beautiful Nyakio as his bride. So the villagers gathered around Nyakio's hut to watch Kasuku fail. "Such an ugly fellow," they said. Even the women left their chores to come and see. "Good gracious," they said, "even we would never marry him." Nyakio was sitting in front of her hut, ever so bored and wondering why old Kasuku would come to waste her time. Kasuku then called Nyakio. "Come, my love," as if to whisper something into her ear, but instead, he put his hand under her right armpit and tickled her. Suddenly, as if struck by magic, Nyakio burst into a beautiful laughter. She would not stop laughing, and her beauty radiated even more. On realizing what she had done to herself, Nyakio immediately became so sad. The villagers were shocked and looked in utter surprise. Would she marry him? They whispered among themselves. A group of women who had waited eagerly for this day shouted in unison, saying, "Well, she made a vow and she has to keep it." They did not feel sorry for her. Some men felt tricked and shouted, "What Kasuku did was so simple and anyone could have done it." But it had happened, and Nyakio was set to marry Kasuku on the next day. When the villagers had left, Nyakio lay down in front of her house feeling so sad. She couldn't imagine marrying Kasuku. That evening she could not sleep. She tossed and turned, crying sadly, knowing what awaited her on the next day. Her mother Mumbi felt so sad, but insisted that Nyakio had to keep her word. She had warned her against her stubbornness, but Nyakio would not heed to her advice. Early the next morning, Nyakio had reached her decision. She decided that she would keep her word and marry Kasuku as a second wife. Kasuku, on the other hand, marveled and had never been this happy before. He went around calling everyone and letting them know that he was going to marry Nyakio. But something unexpected happened that day. A handsome and hard-working man called Wayaki, who had loved Nyakio since she was young, heard of what had happened and decided that he would save Nyakio from her predicament. He gathered all the gifts he could and sold his cattle and crops. Then he came bearing a lot of gifts and monies, rushing to the village square where Nyakio was set to marry Kasuku. At the village square, Chief Masi was ready to give Nyakio's hand in marriage to Kasuku. Wayaki implored Kasuku to take all his wealth and let Nyakio be free. Nyakio was shocked and stared in disbelief. She could not believe that Wayaki would step in to save her, despite saying no to his advances multiple times. Kasuku and his wife were elated at this proposal and immediately said yes to Wayaki's offer. The money could help improve their lives and that of their children. Kasuku also confessed that he was happy with his family and had no real interest in Nyakio. He only wanted to teach her a lesson for her arrogance. Wayaki then sought Chief Masi's approval for Nyakio's hand in marriage. He happily said yes. Nyakio rushed home to gather her stuff so she could go be with Wayaki. They left the village and moved to a new place where they lived happily ever after. Thank you so much for listening to this story. This was inspired by the book Beautiful Nyakio, written by Frederick Ndungu. Stay tuned for other stories that will be brought on this channel. Bye.